Welcome back, Trekkies and Trekkers, for a second attempt at this episode because OBS loves to do this stupid thing where when you update it, it resets all your settings for your outputs and everything. And I didn't see it for some reason. So thanks to our partner in crime, Patrick, who alerted me that there was no sound, so I was able to fix it and get rolling. So here we go again, and I'm kind of missing the energy that I had before. But this is Treknicity. This is a show where we talk about all things related to Star Trek, and we're going to have a good time talking about Picard Season 2, Episode 5, Fly Me to the Moon. I'm Lars.
I'm Brandon.
And let's rock and roll again. So, we'll pick back up where we left off, or pick up where the other episode left off, and we'll basically just kind of give you a wrap on, or a recap on the episode from before. At the end, Q sees this woman. She's reading a Dixon Hill novel. He tries to do the finger snap, can't do it. Something's going on. Yep. So we pick up this episode. We've got Rafi and Seven who are breaking Chris out of deportation. We have Agnes and the Borg Queen doing their little song and dance. And we have Picard and the now discovered Watcher, who looks a lot like Laris without the pointed ears, and she talks like an American. Now, there have been some really good examples of where people who typically speak with a non-American accent do an American accent, and they sound really good. Ewan McGregor is a fantastic example of that. There have been some terrible examples. David Tennant is one of them. So we've got these three little subplots going on, all gearing towards the same thing. We also
did you talk about the Borg Queen's plot?
Agnes and the Borg Queen doing their thing. And then also they did introduce another element, and that is Q and apparently a Sung ancestor by the name of Adam Sung, played by Brent Spiner.
The fabulous Brent Spiner. Absolutely,
just so awesome. I think it was really good to see. Oh my goodness! Oh no! Technical issue number 2. This is what happens when you
don't restart it.
Yeah, this is what happens when you don't mute when you're watching to make sure that it's working okay. But that's all right. No, we're good.
My bad.
So my wife says to me, she goes, "Why isn't Brent Spiner playing Data?" I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, first of all, I tried to be as gracious about it as I could because." It's a fair question.
You didn't get too much Star Trek mansplaining to her.
Yeah, no, I can't mansplain Trek to her. She may not look like she's a Trekkie, but she's one that she'll just throw out nuggets of things about Trek, and you're just like, how the hell do you know that? But we were talking about it. I was like, well, okay, think about this. Okay, the character of Data, because he is an android, he is practically immortal. He's timeless. Brent Spiner, not so much. I mean, he's a fantastic. Yeah, he's a fantastic actor. He's a cool dude. I mean, but the thing is time marches on. Everybody ages, and so of course they had to figure out. They wanted to, you wanted to keep him in the loop. Wanted to keep him part of the overall story. Wanted to keep him on the show. So they end up bringing in an ancestor of Noonien Sung, and in fact, actually, for those who are familiar with the character on Star Trek Enterprise, this would be an ancestor of Arak Sung, and yeah, so we have this character who is playing somebody who has raised a genetically manipulated child, supposedly free of genetic defects. But there's a twist to it. And we'll come back to that in a minute. I want to go back to, it kind of starts off with Agnes and the Borg Queen. Agnes is in Chateau Picard. She's just chilling, waiting.
Chateau.
Yeah, she's just chilling, waiting for Picard to come back. Meanwhile, the Borg Queen is sitting there and she's like just listening in on things. She's, and eventually she realizes that she can use her voice modulator to gain control of some of the ship's functions. One of those is the communication system, and she taps into the worldwide cellular network. So she gets on her big smartphone and calls the cops. And
to come to Chateau Picard.
That's right. And so then we head off now. I don't remember if it was the Picard Watcher element that comes next, or if it was the Adam Sung bit, or if it was the Rafi and Seven bit that comes next.
I really like that scene with the Borg, though. The Borg Queen, like the actress, she plays it really, really well.
Yeah,
like she's an amazing Borg Queen.
The thing is, she plays it a little bit different than, say, Alice Krieg played the Borg Queen.
Yeah.
Alice Krieg was more, she was less old-timey villain and more, looking for a companion. So there was some element, some scrap of humanity in that character. And it was nice to see. But this one, this version of the Borg Queen, it's different, is kind of like I'm gonna be bad for bad sake. I want what I want. And I'm gonna find a way to get it. So screw you, yo.
Well, she's still trying to get in with Girardi a little bit, but
well,
I think she's just trying to get back her power since she lost it all.
Yeah.
The Borg Queen in the old movie, it's because she was like that because she still was attached to the Borg. This queen kind of has to be bad because she's no longer attached to anybody else. She has nobody in her head.
Yeah, she is.
So she has to try and get back or get more people for her.
You're right.
That might be why she's a little more villainous, more angry, or.
Yeah, she is kind of bummed out that there is a, this whole thing with not having access to the collective, and she's used to that cacophony of voices, and no, I mean, here she's just like, okay, well, I'm cut off. I got to figure out a way to do something about this. And she does. I mean, she's kind of like a Sith in a way that she taunts Girardi a lot.
Yeah.
Like, you suck. I'm way better than you. I'm like a Borg Queen. What are you? You're just some chick who used to play drums for Scott Pilgrim. And, I don't know. I mean, yes, you're right. I mean, like, again, there is I guess a reasoning, a definable reasoning for why she's kind of doing this, being bad for bad sake. But at the same time, it's kind of like, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. What were you talking about again? Okay, somebody change the record, man, because this is getting really old. But there is a good dichotomy between Agnes's character, who, in a way, sits being plucked off of Earth and dragged along this entire adventure for the last season and a half. She's kind of like, what I do, I mean, like, I'm part of the team. Am I or am I not? I mean, I don't know really what I'm doing anymore because the thing that I was working on, I don't work on anymore.
Yeah.
So,
it should be interesting coming up in the next few episodes.
Exactly. I agree. So we have, we'll just, I don't care if we particularly go in chronological order of the episode. We'll just cover all the bits and pieces.
I guess we forgot to say spoiler warning, by the way.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
If you haven't seen it,
I'm sorry, with the whole screw up and me having to reset the audio and everything. I completely forgot. Yes. This episode is spoilerific if you haven't already figured it out. Okay. So let's we'll talk about now.
So the next scene was the Brent Spiner scene where he was talking to Leah Thompson and all the other people
Right.
trying
So
to sell his genetics.
yes, he was. Yeah. Well, I don't know if he was he was trying to sell it, but at the same time, I think he'd been busted for doing it.
Oh yeah,
Because they end up
yeah, yeah.
stripping him of his license to practice, and
Oh, maybe that's what he was defending himself.
right, he was defending himself, and you know, it was cool. It was cool to see Leah Thompson behind the desk, and it was like, okay, cool. That kind of gives you that Back to the Future vibe, like when Marty goes and his band auditioned for the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. No, well, sorry, it wasn't even that. It was just like the show that they were wanting to play at the school, and regardless,
in modern times.
yeah, and she kind of tells him off, basically reads him the riot act, pulls his plug, pulls his funding, and he goes home, and we find that his daughter is basically her name is Kore, Kore, Kore Sung, and it is played by the actress who played Sochi in the first season. The one who was
android daughter.
Right, so who was the biological android daughter of Data in the future. So it's kind of a nice little tie back on that. We find out that she is unable to go out into the sunlight because the sun does something to her blood. It basically turns it into acid, and she can die from it.
She's a vampire.
Yeah, pretty much. He takes a blood sample from her, runs it through his computer, finds out that she's basically 98 point something % guaranteed to die if she goes out into the sun.
He takes the blood from her with the biggest needle I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, like I mean, I'm okay. I'm okay with getting blood. I'm okay with getting blood drawn, but man, that was spooky. It's like a 5-gauge needle, like
it was like a straw.
Yeah, yeah, like a McDonald's straw. So we talk. He goes over and he's like, well, shit, what am I gonna do? She's gonna die. So he gets a mysterious message on his computer screen. I almost expected it to go, wake up, Neo, knock knock. But he gets this cryptic computer message, tells him to look at his 3D printer. It shows him a business card with oddly enough a weird Q-shaped logo on it. Hint, hint. And as a result, there's a telephone number on there for him to call. And just because I can, I'm going to play that message for you right now. So if you call this number that's on the card in the episode, this is what you hear.
Hello, you have reached the Q Continuum. We are unable to get to the phone right now because we are busy living in a plane of existence your feeble mortal mind cannot possibly comprehend. Furthermore, it's pointless to leave a message because we, of course, already knew that you would call, and we simply do not care. Have a nice day.
Beautiful, beautiful little nugget there from John Delancey, knowing that people awesome. would definitely call that number, and they set it up on purpose, which was cool. So
I like it when shows do that stuff.
Yeah. So he, so they cut away from there. And I believe do they go to the Rafi and Seven scene, or they go to Picard and the Watcher? I think it's
I don't remember.
I think it's Picard and the Watcher.
Probably,
so Picard and the Watcher, they disappeared at the end of last episode. And
to their cloud box.
Yeah, so they show up in this apartment, which was kind of interesting. I'm like, I wonder. And my suspicions were confirmed when we find out that the Watcher is basically a human who has been hired by a higher power of some kind to look after a particular subject. And even Picard picks up on it and goes, wait a minute, this has happened before. Because
Captain Kirk.
when Kirk and Spock were on Earth and they met Gary 7, he was doing the same thing. So I looked at my wife and I said, I bet you she has a cat. But unfortunately, we didn't see one. So I'm guessing that this character who looks like Lars, who is the Watcher, who is watching a young lady, the same young lady who was seen at the end of last episode reading the Dixon Hell novel. She's looking after this character, trying to keep her going, and make sure she's supposed to do what she's supposed to do. And we find out said girl, her last name is, spoiler alert, Picard. So she is she's a British astronaut who is joining this Europa mission, which is supposed to take them out into the solar system. And as part of it, I think it's supposed to be a catalyst for humanity being open to first contact whenever it happens, which ends up happening in 2063, April 5th, 2063 to be precise, when Zefram Cochrane has his
nerd alert.
Yeah, has his famous warp flight, which catches the attention of the Vulcans. So we think that Q in some way is trying to manipulate that she does not go on this trip, which then alters the future, and we end up having a xenophobic race of Terrans on Earth, and then we have the whole thing with the Confederation, humans. Blah 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 blah.
I bet it all comes down to Trump being reelected. That's what happens. She stays on Earth, starts a chain reaction.
Yep, he gets elected president again. World War III happens, and then we have the scene from Encounter at Farpoint.
Aliens come, he blows them up.
Yep, they all they're peaceful, and they've got medicine and technology. Blow them up! But they're here, they're nice. Blow them up!
Fake news.
Yeah, yep. It was a Democrat plot to defame him. Oh my
okay,
goodness.
sorry. I didn't mean to bring him up.
Oh, it's all good. So they talk about it they work through it. They figure out that reason why she is watching her is to make sure she goes on this mission. The mission ends up being, something that is beneficial for humanity. We're guessing. I mean, we're surmising based on the conjecture of the characters in the story. We go from there. We go to Rafi and Seven, somewhere out on the 14 freeway, ready to stop a Department of Homeland Security
INS
bus. An ICE bus to deport all these people. They use a tricorder, disable the bus. They use a tricorder, disable the bus driver. Chris, goes all, kick ass,
Indiana Jones on him, beats him up.
Exactly. The only thing he was missing was a whip and a fedora. And so they end up springing him as well as all of the other detainees on the bus, and they rock and roll. They get out, they take off, and then we kind of swing back around. We follow along with the Brent Spiner, the Adam Sung line, where he meets with surprise Q at a diner in LA, as you do. And it's like, oh, okay, they have this conversation, and we have this kind of, we have this moment where he's like, I can totally help you. I know exactly what you're doing and what your problem is. Here, take this little vial of blue stuff, and go and...
I like what he says right when Data soon first arrives, and he just says this line. He's like, I know what you're doing. You're teasing me with Data. I was like, that's pretty funny.
Wait a minute. What are you saying?
Little.
There's some great little kind of pieces there. There's some nice little shout outs, like little teasers of different things, just little stuff to make you go hee hee. Now, the other thing to note is that the episode is directed by Jonathan Frakes. So of course we got our fan wish and saw him back behind the director's chair, which ultimately led to there being a fantastic episode.
Oh yeah, no wonder why this was a very good episode.
Oh yeah, I love his directing style. I didn't hate on Star Trek Insurrection. It wasn't my favorite, and I understood the challenges that they faced, but it was still a pretty decent movie.
I watch it every now and then.
Yeah, so we know, and of course he sat in the director's chair a couple of times where Riker had appeared in the previous season, and those episodes were pretty decent as well. Now we've got this whole thing where, all right, Seven and Rafi have busted Chris out. Then they end up getting all beamed back to the La Serena. And they're like, okay, cool, let's do this whole thing. Meanwhile, we figure out that when Agnes came back to the ship, what had happened is that the Borg Queen had used her ability to access the cellular network to call the police. The French police send a gendarme.
French popo.
Yep, he comes in, he checks things out, realizes that, this is a ship. Or, he walks onto the ship, he's like, oh my God, what's going on? What's going on? And he gets enticed by the Borg Queen. We find out that Agnes follows them onto the ship. She's grabbed a double-barrel shotgun just before the commercial break. Yep, clack, clack, blam. We come to find out when they all get beamed back to the La Serena, we find out that she put 18 dimes in the Borg Queen.
She's covered in blood.
Yeah, she's got splatter marks on her of Borg blood. Come to find out as well is that they have this big sort of argument where Agnes and the Borg Queen are kind of arguing about what they want, and in the meantime, the Borg Queen is basically squeezing the life out of this French gendarme, and in the end, it's like she pulls the trigger, blam, and when we come back to it, she is the Borg Queen is a whistle. She's Borg Swiss cheese, and they tell, oh my God, I think I killed our only chance to go home. Well, what we do find out later on in the episode, right at the very ending, is that Agnes has allowed herself to be,
the Borg Queen inserted herself into Dr. Girardi.
Yes, and hang on, Patrick is messaging me.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, he asked me questions and then he makes me nervous that I didn't go do something. So, we're good. we're all right. But yeah, so
he wanted to flummox you.
Yeah, he did, and he succeeded. We find out that Agnes has allowed herself to be assimilated by the Borg Queen, or at least partly assimilated, because she touches her, you see the little things go from her fingers into her neck, and yeah, it was they have this whole thing where they realize, okay, the goal is they got to get Picard to go on this mission, the Lady Picard to go on this mission, so they have to basically go to this super secret ball where they've got to talk to her, make sure she does her thing, gets into quarantine, and then gets on the mission. So it
was like a Mission Impossible breakdown.
Exactly.
First, we need to get here. The security here is this tight, and second, we need to get. It's like Mission Impossible.
So while you're seeing the plan played out, they're describing the plan they're gonna do, and so Agnes is in this party while Picard is just sitting there.
Agnes in that dress. Damn.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna. But I'm sorry. All I'm gonna say about this, and that's not being sexist. She was gorgeous. In fact, actually, at that point, I stopped seeing her as a little redhead drummer. Okay. But again, I mean, like,
you hit puberty.
Yeah, it was just so cool. Like they go to this whole thing. You see her kind of doing the, like, she's being like overt about it, putting her hand up to her ear and talking, and of course security's watching her, and they're like, oh, look at the red, look at the red, and the red dress in the room, and she's a party crasher, go get her. so the guy goes and takes her back to the command area, which is exactly what she wanted. It was she needed to be
Our
close.
plan worked.
Yep. And so of course now she's seeing visions of the Borg Queen in her head, because she is in her head. And they're just, they're sort of Netflix and chilling sort of thing, and we're sitting there, and like, she tells them, "I'm in," sort of thing, like she does like the hacker voice, "I'm in," and so then it cuts off, like the episode just cuts off right there, and I'm like,
Yep.
damn it! When I'm
Big
just
old
finally
cliffhanger.
really getting into this the whole thing. I mean, it's been a good episode, but I'm really I'm driving, man. I'm in that car. I'm watching, like I'm going down the road with this plot, and then suddenly done. Like,
That's how they hook
oh, you wanted more Picard? Come back next week. It's like, damn it, damn
Don't
you.
forget to renew your monthly Paramount Plus prescription.
Yep, like, come on.
Subscription.
Well, it is kind of like a prescription, because I'm getting the loving I need and the medicine that is Star Trek. I know, it sounded really creepy, doesn't it? It's like, look, you got to understand, we work in IT, and most of the time during the day, we deal with people that make us rip our hair out. I mean, look, Brandon has very little on his head. I have none on the side of my head, okay? This is what happens when we deal with the situations that we deal with. But break it down. Overall, fantastic episode. Very well written. Very well executed. Only
Awesome
beef with
episode.
it. Only beef with it was it just seemed like it was too short. And then it's because they
Oh,
fit
yep.
four subplots into that hour-long episode. So, of course, it was going to feel like it was too short and too rushed. But overall, I loved it, and I'm looking forward very much to the next episode. In fact,
I agree.
next week is going to be fun. I mean, we're going to continue on this whole thing with reviewing Picard. It'll be episode 6. I mean, just a good time talking about the stories, and then we'll kind of ramp up things from there as we get closer and closer to Star Trek New Worlds coming out, which I'm exceptionally excited about.
I'm super excited for that.
Yeah,
I can't wait. Everyone I know is excited for it too.
So, okay. Final thoughts. I mean, what's your overall impression of the entire episode? Highs and lows.
Amazing. It was awesome. You don't really enjoy the Borg Queen. I don't know. I'm loving it. I love her character. I love the way that she acts, and like every time she comes on the screen, I can't wait to hear what she's gonna say, because it's always like said, it's just something evil. Like, what is she gonna say next? And I don't know. I enjoy it. I think it's fun. The low scenes is probably the Noonien soon with his daughters. That brought it back down to a little bit slower, a little bit not as action packed as the rest of the scenes. But overall, it was a very entertaining episode. I loved it a lot.
I agree that I loved the episode. I did enjoy it very much. I don't think that I necessarily don't like the Borg Queen character. I just feel like that they've really kind of painted themselves in the corner a little bit. They did kind of pull it back with the whole assimilation thing with Girardi. So I'll be interested to see how she influences and how she
it's gonna
changes
be very
things and
interesting.
how that's going to come to be. Is there going to be some sort of reconciliation? Is there going to be a truce? Is there going to be something along the line with her character that helps them get back to the future?
Morph into the Borg Queen.
Yeah. Is she going to... I mean, we don't know. I mean, because she ends up... Yeah, I mean, we see Girardi end up becoming the Borg Queen after all. That will be a really interesting piece to see. And I'm looking over here at Discord while I'm talking, and of course Patrick is sitting there listening to us, and he streamed earlier in the evening just before we went live, and he was sitting there, and he decided, hey, just want to let you know I updated the stream information. You're good to go. Just go in there and do your bits and pieces. So naturally, I open up Restream, and there's his little message waiting for us, basically saying, like basically a Star Trek podcast by a couple of Kirk Love and Spock suckers. It's like, damn you! I swear to God, I hate you sometimes. But you know what?
Kirk Love and Spock.
I mean, look, he lifted the line from Fanboys, but it's like every time I hear it, I laugh. It's hilarious.
That's funny.
So
That's funny.
yeah, for me, highs of the episode was definitely the little callbacks, especially the Gary 7 one. And finding out about that one of Picard's ancestors features in this plot. Q basically having his wings clipped again, which is really fun.
Yeah.
Like some of Q's best moments is when he can't snap his fingers and make something happen.
Yeah, because now he's really got to get his hands dirty.
Yeah. That's right, and he has to resort to traditional forms of manipulation.
Yep.
Low points for me, I think I'd be the same with you. Like the whole Core and Adam, Core and Adam Sung sort of subplot going on was a little bit of a slowdown. It just kind of pumped the brakes a little bit on the whole thing. I mean, I'm really excited to see what happens to it. I'm lovely to see that Brent Spiner is still with us in Star Trek. It just makes my little geek heart squee to
I want him more.
Yeah, and I'm kind of glad that they broke him from the Data mold, so to speak. As in, like when we saw him in season 1, we knew that there was a little bit of they had to do something. The actor had aged. They could only de-age him so much without it really looking uncanny valley. So they did okay. It was good. Like instead of having to pour a ton of money into something that might not look natural, they just finally said, okay, let's let the character go. Data is gone in this series. We're done with him. But Brent gets to continue on with the Sung line, which is great. And so I am excited to look to see what happens with that and see where they go with it. Ultimately, roll on to episode 6 next week.
I can't wait.
So that is all of the time that we have for this episode of Treknicity, even though it was the second take. I'm sorry for those who started to watch us, then got no sound. And of course, I didn't know about it because I wasn't seeing anything. Duh. But again, thank you very much for watching. Oh, and before we take off, one thing that Brandon and I talked about this afternoon is that we want to take just a moment to give a little bit of a shout out to those fellow Trek podcasters that follow us on Instagram, and we follow conversely. I've been listening to Twin City Trekkies lately. I've been listening to Where's Beverly? Love that one. And as if, and of course, Starship Tempest, I listen to. I back those guys as a patron, Like, I cannot get enough of what these guys put out. And then, of course, there's the Red Shirt Cast. And the last episode just happened to feature the hosts of Where's Beverly podcast. So, and it was just really, cool. It was a great dynamic. It was fun listening to them. A little bit on the blue humor side, which is definitely not a bad thing. And I love it. I hope we get a chance to have him on our show at some point. Excuse me, Mr. Microphone. Don't do that. And
he's trying to attack you.
Exactly. He's mad at me. But I hope we get a chance to have them on our show. Perhaps we could be on their show at some point, just so we can, geek out and talk Star Trek. Also, a very dear friend of mine, another fellow Trekkie by the name of Andre, will be joining us at some point as we talk all manners of Star Trek. TOS, TNG, Voyager, DS9, Enterprise, Discovery, Brave New World, Picard, all of it. Okay, we're gonna talk about. We're gonna have some great things going on, and also before we take off, please direct your attention to the awesome Borg disco cubes in Brandon's background. Sorry, I promise I'll not do that again. All right, folks. Thanks for watching watching Treknicity. I'm Lars.
I'm Brandon.
And we'll see you next time. And remember to rock out with your Spock out.